Hey everybody, this is TotalGamerJunkie. I want to welcome you all back to my channel. So, oh boy, do we have a lot to talk about with the Japanese gameplay reveal. Now, for starters, towards the very end, when they show off the game, well, it's like halfway through it, they show off just gameplay footage from, it was the first 18 minutes, you know, where you play as Max, and then ended with Safi dying, and then the next part is Max trying to get back Moses' camera. So, the second half is just we see stuff we've already seen, but the first half we get new information. And despite how short this opening scene is that you're seeing now, we get a lot of information about what could happen, specifically with Max and her power to shift. Now for me, the biggest surprise from watching this is the blue butterfly from the first game makes a return. Now we only see that butterfly twice. We see it in episode 1 when Max takes a photo of it, and at the end of episode 5, if Max sacrifices Chloe, the butterfly will appear on her casket. Yet here, it's made a return. And when I noticed that, I was thinking, that's crazy. Like, is it just a little reference? But then I noticed Max herself, and when she was looking at the butterfly, you'll notice that she doesn't have a beanie on. And Max not having her beanie on and the butterfly returning, this is very important. This is what we're going to be discussing in this video. Now, this scene right here, we can see it takes place on the rooftop where Safi and Moses are. And if you remember the gameplay, the reveal, the first thing we ever saw was when it was about how Max found her friend Safi dead in the snow. The trailer explains Max's new power, how she can shift to a parallel timeline. And it's in that as well. The first thing we see when Max finds Safi is that she isn't wearing a beanie either. Now when I saw the butterfly, I went back and looked at the rooftop scene where Max leaves after she takes a photo of the moon. And then my memory was a bit fuzzy on that. I was thinking, did it cut to black and then she goes out, and then it shows her outside heading off? But I looked back at the scene, it's like, no, we see Max, she clearly walks off and she goes through the door. She does not see the butterfly at all. There's no cut little trickery to throw us off track, but no, we see here, she walks through the door and she leaves. Yet Max here, we see she isn't wearing a beanie and she sees the blue butterfly. So what gives? Well, I have two theories. My first theory is, I actually made a video on it a while ago, that Max ends up traveling back in time, like maybe towards the end of the game, and she ends up, she gets her power to rewind again. Either that, or she creates a new reality at that exact moment in time so she can save Safi. Now, as we all know, when Max uses her power too much, it puts strain on her body, and this causes her to have nosebleeds. And this was pointed out to me a while ago. I even made a video on it. If you watch the original Life is Strange double exposure reveal trailer, you'll see that scene where Max, Safi, and Moses have that photo together, and that's the bottom scene there. But if you go and you watch the reveal gameplay stream, the one that goes for about 50 minutes, and if you fast forward about 5-6 minutes into it, you'll see that Max, Moses, and Safi take that same photo again, only Max's nose is bleeding. Now, canonically, I can tell you 100% fact, Max's nose, her first ever nosebleed, will be after Safi's alive, and she's sitting at the table with Safi and her mum, Yasmin. And I remember, because I looked at the scene myself, I zoomed in, I compared it, Max's nose is going to bleed while she's talking to Yasmin and Safi. You can even, if you go back and you look at the nosebleed and you compare it to the footage where Max is sitting at the table with Yasmin and Safi, it matches up. Because I don't see Max having random nosebleeds, it wouldn't make sense otherwise. Now, if this isn't true, if this doesn't take place towards the end of the game, where would it take place? I think it might take place at the beginning of the game. So I also made another theory video about it, but here's what I think might happen. Max will end up finding Sophie dead in the snow. She's all upset, and it's at this point, like Moses hasn't appeared yet, Max discovers she has this power to shift back in time. And she does it, but because she hasn't used her power for so long, it takes a strain on her body, and this causes her to have amnesia. That's why the shifting ability is completely different. When Max is able to see Sophie again, we see how she opens a tear and it just appears natural, you know? Nothing too abnormal about it. But if you look at the gameplay trailer, like towards the end of the trailer, even the Japanese gameplay reveal here, you'll see that Max's power, when she opens a tear, it looks a lot different. What more fanciful, if you will. Now, why is that? It's because Max is using her power for the first time. Think back to when Chloe got shot in the bathroom. Max rewound to the point where she woke up from her nightmare. Yet when you play the game and you try to rewind as much as you can only do it for about, well, it really depends on how fast you're rewinding and how far you want to go back. But ultimately, just when you hold L2, you rewind, you will never, I even counted it, you will never go as far back as Max did when she first used her rewind. Like, if you want to be technical, you can say, yeah, she traveled back in time with the photos, but I just mean rewinding. She can only rewind in the game for a few seconds, whereas that scene after Chloe got shot, she rewinded a good few minutes. Now, there is another possible explanation, and this is going to be a bit crazy, but hear me out. The Max without the beanie is not Max, at least not the Max we play as. This is an entirely different version, because not only do we see that she's not wearing a beanie, when she discovers her powers completely at a different place and time than from the Max we play as. The Max with no beanie, let's call her Maxine. Maxine discovers her power to shift between timelines the moment after Sophie dies. Yet Max discovers her power to shift between timelines when people are saying nice words about Sophie. Shortly after her death, of course. And when Maxine uses her power, it's almost like she has a bit of experience. Like, she knows what she's doing. There's a little bit of shock in the beginning, but ultimately it's as if she knows what she's doing. She's using her power. It's as if she's used it before and she's familiar with it. Now, why is this? Well, I think, in fact, this is going to be crazy. It's going to be like, it's probably bullshit anyway, but hear me out. This Max, the storm from the first game, was her doing. We've seen in the game when Max is trying to get Sophie's camera back, she ends up bringing Moses' telescope from the timeline where Sophie's alive into the timeline where she's dead, and the telescope's all fixed up because in the timeline where she's dead, Moses didn't put the telescope together. And even the detective is like, what the hell is going on? So who's to say that if Max can bring stuff in from other realities, then who's to say Maxine couldn't push certain things out of her reality? And so the storm, when she discovered her powers, the storm was obviously going to destroy Arcadia Bay. But she used her powers to push it out. She created another reality for it to exist in. That could also explain the translucent dough in episode 2 of Life is Strange 1. When Max goes to take a picture of it, we'll notice that the dough will not be in the picture. And in Life is Strange Double Exposure, whenever Max shifts between timelines, her text messages change based on what timeline she's in. So it could be something similar to this. We can even take it one step further. What if the Max we play as in the very beginning of episode 1, what if she is Maxine? Because we see that she goes up to the lighthouse, she ends up seeing the storm, and just as a boat smashes into the lighthouse and the debris goes to fall on her, Max wakes up. What if Max is just observing Maxine's memories, And the moment Maxine gets her powers, as I do believe it would be at that moment, Max would wake up in class. Now, we've seen in the comics where Max involuntarily shifts between timelines, and she's switching into other versions of herself. So this could also be, in this moment, maybe Maxine, the storm caused a log or a rock to hit her in the head, and she gets knocked out, and Max ends up taking control of her body while she's unconscious. And then just before the lighthouse debris falls on Max in Maxine's body, she ends up jumping back in time to her body, and then Maxine has control again, and she's able to save herself. I don't know, it's very silly, this one, a bit complicated, but there's a lot of factors you have to take in as well, as in, if the opening is Maxine, then what caused the storm? Because we know that Chloe being alive, that's what caused the storm, yet you can make the argument Chloe died Jefferson killed Chloe in episode 4, so why did the storm still happen if she was the cause of it? But anyways, that's really all I wanted to talk about in this video. I know it's a lot, but I do hope you enjoyed it. I did enjoy making this video, and please let me know in the description what you think in the comments below. This is TotalGamerJunkie, signing off.